Joining us today are two people that are involved with one of the films that's going to be part of NorthWestFest. The film itself is called Hell or Clean Water. And joining us, it's Cody Westman, the writer, director, and co-producer of the film, as well as Jennifer Hawley, who is the producer of the film. Hell or Clean Water takes place from May 6th to 16th, and it screens as part of the Best of Hot Docs Showcase programming. All films, including this one, can be streamed through the festival website at northwestfest.ca. Cody, Jennifer, welcome, and I appreciate that you guys have taken the time to talk to me. Before we get into the film, can you give the audience a little context about how this documentary revolves around the pollution off the East Coast, the Clean Harbours initiative, and also an unlikely vanguard of the Harbours, Shawn Bath?
Yeah, Jenny?
Oh, um, okay. So, yeah, so you're asking sort of like how it came to be?
Sure, and,
Um,
and just give an audience a little bit of a taste of what it's about.
okay, so Sean is sort of like the vigilante of the ocean. He's been trying to clean up the harbors around Newfoundland and started this initiative called Clean Harbors Initiative. And he's been like by himself for a really long time, probably like close to 2 years now, I'd say, Cody, huh?
Yeah.
Just diving off the wharfs around Newfoundland and cleaning up any garbage that he could find. And he's been trying to like start an industry really here in Newfoundland where he could make this something that everyone could get on board with. And he was really, really struggling to do that. And so he reached out to Cody to do like a small video to try and get some awareness about what he was trying to do. And Cody came to me and we sort of talked about it. We're like, this is a really amazing thing that he's trying to accomplish. And we thought there's a bigger story here. We were just so fortunate that he was open to us joining him on his journey. And I think we captured a really great moment of what is just the beginning of his story, really. But
Yeah,
that's a bit about what he's doing.
the line that got me from the beginning was he said in his first year he's taken 15,000 pounds of trash out by himself, and I was like, my God, that's a hell of a story, and it deserves much more than a short promo video, and so yeah, we just basically started right then and there.
Yeah, within a matter of weeks, really, I think we had kind of put it through like a, small little development, did a proof of concept, got everybody on board, and everyone who heard the story was just in awe of what this one man is trying to do. It's a huge, huge problem. And just to see that sort of dedication and commitment, it's not something that a lot of us could do. Like I know personally for myself to quit my job, dedicate, like I don't know, I want to do what I can for the environment, but that's a whole other level that most of us, I think, don't have that that power inside to do something like that.
Yeah, and I think what audiences are really going to gravitate towards the most is the fact that on the surface, like I was telling Cody before, this seems like one kind of film specifically, but it's powerful on so many different levels. You balance the personal journey of Sean, the crusade that he's on, the horrific consequences of the environment, which are, all throughout the film, and I'm probably just a section of that you probably left on the cutting room floor, as well as the bureaucratic hurdles he has to go through just to try to clean the coastlines, and he's doing a lot of this by himself. So how did the course of the narrative kind of evolve throughout the shooting to start to include all these different things? Because you'd almost feel like you'd want to make this story leaner, but you did such a great job of balancing all these different elements.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. It's interesting because you know it's the same concept as every dramatic story is basically like one person's quest and what gets in their way, so that's sort of the basis of drama, and so I just sort of mapped it out because I mean, you're following the guy, you're hoping that he's going to get something major breakthrough or whatever, but you never really know what's going to happen. You never really know how much he's going to, take out, or if some major funding is going to come around the corner or whatever. So you just got to keep shooting. But we started planning it out, and we had all these post-it notes in my editor's office, and you just try and create a story arc. And now none of that is anything that I made up. It's just stuff that we knew we had to follow, and things that did get in his way, and anything good that happened, we'd be like, okay, that's great, that's a high point. We do, otherwise known as high points and low points. I mean, it's I told Shawn many times that this is not a 90-minute commercial for Clean Harbours Initiative. Like, we really want to show how hard it is for someone to get this off the ground. Like, I mean, showing somebody's to getting a not-for-profit from nothing. I don't think I'm giving away anything here, but when we started filming him, he only had $9 in his bank account, and we get it from there to a point where we had to eventually stop. I mean, Justin, again, my editor, said this great line. He said, "Films are never finished; they're abandoned." You got to find a moment that is time to stop. And for me, I wanted to find some sort of a milestone for him. And so it took a little while. I mean, in the world of documentaries, it didn't take that long. It took a year and a half. We followed him, but you just plan out the arcs and chase down. You go down rabbit holes, and many of them don't work out. And I don't know if you're aware of the concept for documentary. It's about, not the concept, but the ratio is about 100 to 1. That's what they say. You shoot 100 minutes for every 1 minute that's on screen. So, it was a lot of trial and error and just exploring things, and ultimately this is what we came up with.
Yeah. Also, for yourself, Jennifer and Cody, talk to us a little bit about what that working relationship is throughout the arc of something like this, because, you're constantly trying to figure out, where is this going to go, right? And maybe you have an idea of it and it evolves at a certain point. So what's that working relationship as you kind of go through this and try to negotiate it together, is to figure out where is this story, and also too for yourselves of like, when is that moment when you need to abandon it?
Yeah.
Well, I think the moment comes when you need to abandon it for a couple of different reasons. One is, as a producer, you run out of money. But no, creatively, I think Cody, when he started talking about this, the story arc, like he was saying, he said that there needs to be a milestone moment that people can really relate to, and kind of get on board, because we always knew that we wanted to tell an inspirational story. And there was definitely moments when we were filming this that it maybe could have gone a different way, and maybe even started to in the edit, or just with the footage we were capturing, the dramatic points could have maybe even been even bigger. But Cody knew, and I knew, especially when we pitched this thing, is that this is supposed to be an environmental film, but it's a feel-good one. We want people to be inspired at the end of this. It's not throwing like a problem at you without a solution. I think that was something we really wanted to keep true. And so I think, that was something that we always had to kind of keep coming back to, even when it could veer off or whatever. We'd have these conversations together. Cody's really good at being collaborative. I think we work really well together for that reason. And we would just always talk about the film and where it was going, and just always veer back to that main point, that this is an inspirational story about Shawn. And yeah, there's drama and, the trials and tribulations of, like Cody said, trying to get a non-for-profit up and going. But it was, that was sort of the main point. Is just,
and the other thing is that we're not trying to like solve the world's problems in one film. Like it's not a talking heads scientific film full of narration and facts and all that. No, I love those films. I mean, I've seen hundreds of docs. there's different, every story is different. This one is following one man who's trying to make a difference. Now, when I actually pitched it initially to Doc Channel, I was going to do 3 people around the world that are all doing something about ocean plastics, ocean trash, and Shawn was our guy here. And you know, the producers at Doc Channel are very good, and you know, they've a lot of experience, and you know, we have grown to love them, especially Jordana. But anyway, she basically said, you know, these people need to meet in a way that's organic. It's not put together by the filmmakers. And I was like, wow, that's like heavy, because I mean, I had a guy in Hawaii who works with Parlay for the Oceans. I mean, this is a big organization, if you've heard of them. You know, there was also a guy in Sweden that we were talking to. There's different people all over the world. And I was going to do almost like just 3 vignettes that just kept interweaving. But she was absolutely right that there was no point where they all would meet organically. I mean, Shawn with $9 in his bank account is not just going to be like, you know what, we should all meet up in Zurich. You know, it's stupid and it doesn't make sense. And eventually we just realized that what we had here was enough, and it was compelling, and it's a great like microcosmic example of a world problem. And you know, I think this is a universal story. It just takes place in small town Newfoundland. And so, you know, we ended up settling. Settle is a terrible word. We ended up, can you edit this? Just kidding. We ended up, you know, sticking with Shawn, and, you know, I think it works better like that, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I mean, keeping it kind of localized, I think, is what I think gives the film some weight as well. And also this idea of just the film, seeing how Shawn has evolved into this tireless proponent of Newfoundland harbors is incredibly impressive. But he seems to be kind of symbolic of many of the people that has their livelihood reliant on their environment, right? He's just taken a completely different angle of it from many of the other people, or at least than he did previously in his life. You know, yet the balance between commerce and environmental awareness is so delicate in that area where people are continually torn about that. So can you talk to us about how this isn't necessarily such an easy choice for the local or the federal government to make, and the people in that community to support, even though it seems like it should be a no-brainer?
Yeah, it's there's a few different levels there. I mean, because Shawn is a former fisherman. He grew up as a fisherman. He is from Twillingate, which is, I mean, everybody pretty much in the community is reliant on fishing, and there's a whole, like you said, it's generational. And so, you know, that's fine. I mean, a lot of this waste, I think there's a stat that's in the film, and we've researched it in other areas, but 47% of the trash in the ocean in the whole world is from fishing equipment. You know, fishing gear, derelict fishing nets and lost nets, and rope and crab pots and all that stuff. And so I think a lot of people didn't want to maybe have that be shown. I mean, every single fisherman we talked to did not want to be on camera except for one, and he's in the film. You know, but that, I mean, I don't hold it against anybody. I'm not trying to take sides or point fingers. I'm just trying to, you know, follow somebody's journey. You know what I mean? So there's that. And then there's also the fact that one of the first groups that came up to help Shawn is an anti-seal hunting group. And Shawn is also, you know, when you're a fisherman in Newfoundland, in the wintertime, you go out and hunt seals, right? And that's a major contentious issue in the world. And you know, so yeah, there was a lot of people that were upset. Like they was twofold. They liked what he was doing, but they did not like that he was in bed with this group, you know. So that makes for an interesting story. Yeah, Jenny.
I was gonna say, it made for interesting filming at times as well, because there was times where Shawn would, you know, we kind of gave him a little camera to record some of his own things when he was out in the midst of it all. And, you know, he'd want to get on a boat, get someone to take him out on a boat to you know, capture some footage. And he'd be told that they wouldn't take him. No one would take him because he was associated with IFA. So, you know, it really is like a big issue in Newfoundland, like this divide amongst the people in terms of, you know, wanting to have the environment taken care of, the ocean, support Shawn, and then, you know, the groups that he's associated with. Like that question of the day that appears in the film from one of the local news stations here, you know, 74% of the people wanted the money taken away from Shawn. They didn't have all the information. I mean, I think that's part of it. You know, it was a pretty just basic question that was listed, but still 74% of the people who voted didn't want him to have the money. I think now that if they watch this documentary, they'll feel differently. But just hearing the word IFA,
they didn't want IFA to have the money, but
they didn't want IFA. Yeah, so that's.
And I mean, you know, we're giving away stuff, but people aren't going to remember all the stuff we're saying. But but I mean, they didn't want IFA to have the money, but really IFA was just getting it on Shawn's behalf because he's not an official not-for-profit yet, right? And so. Yeah. You know, like it wasn't, they weren't actually coming here. They weren't actually making any money from the cleanups. They were just using their organization to get him the grants. But when you put it to the public that IFA got this grant and they're going to come here and clean up, the people said, no way. I don't care what if they're doing good for the environment, you know, we don't want them here. So there's that. And then there's other things like, you know, when Shawn was, cleaning up and taking all this stuff to the dump, he had to use his own dump card. He had to pay to dump all this garbage, right? Now that has since changed, I think, but a lot has changed since we finished filming. And that's the beauty of like being able to capture this from the beginning. Like that's, you know, you don't want to start making a film about somebody when their business is 5 years running. You want to get them from the beginning. And we almost got it. We got him after his first year, but basically every, you know, epic thing that happened was in our little time frame, I think. So now that being said, I think he is just getting started. I mean, I think especially the awareness and stuff of the film. I mean, people are getting on board, and I think it's going to just snowball for him.
Yeah, and I can't believe that this won't help, you know? I mean, just you see in the film, like there's one moment where he's kind of putting out desperate pleas to get some support, and even just a little bit of traction, like being on CBC radio, you know, made a difference for him. So I can only imagine what this film that is, I think it tells everyone's story that's involved, even though Shawn is at the forefront of it, whether it is the people that live there, whether it is the people that are involved, or whether it is, you know, the coastline itself. You've done a fantastic job of representing all that evenly and really giving us the full story as much as you can about that year and a half in his life.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, we're excited to bring it to Edmonton. It's a long way from Newfoundland, you know, but you know, the world is a big place, but it's a small place. And this issue of dumping in the ocean, it happens everywhere. And, you know, there's this one clip that we tried to get in the film. We do this, I just call it the world section. You know, it's a small section about how bad the problem is in the world. And right away we bring it back to Newfoundland. And then, you know, there's a great line. I think, you know, one of the reporters says, people are getting tired of this kind of story because they know that we can do something about it. And it cuts to black, and then there's the guy, Shawn, doing something about it. So that's one of my favorite moments. But for the world problem, we tried to get this clip that I found online from India. And it's heartbreaking, Christian. It's crazy, man. You know, this dump truck just backs up to a river and dumps all of the stuff in. And then he pulls this thing down, pulls away. Another dump truck comes, backs up, dumps into the river. I mean, how can you compete with that, right? And you know, Newfoundland is such a small place in the world, but we're part of the world. And, you know, it's happening here. I mean, just imagine what it's like You know, this idea of out of sight, out of mind, that's said a couple times in the film. Many people said it. I could only use it a couple times because then it would just be too much, right? But that's the mentality. You know, you can't see it, so, you know, who cares? And it's insane to think. So, you know, we're excited to bring this this story to up to your neck of the woods.
Our guest today, Cody Westman, writer, director, co-producer, and Jennifer Hawley, the producer of Hell or Clean Water. You can catch it as part of NorthWestFest, of course, which takes place from May 6th to the 16th. And it's screening as part of the Best of Hot Docs Showcase. You know it's got to be good. It's at Hot Docs. That's the stamp of approval for any documentary film. Congratulations even on that. All the films, of course, can be streamed through the festival website at northwestfest.ca. Cody and Jennifer, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.